Our guest today on Climate Matters is Alan Robinson, the chair of Falmouth's Solid Waste Advisory Committee. His professional career has been in the environmental sciences, but these days he volunteers his time in making Falmouth better. So today we're talking trash with Alan, but first I want to connect the dots between waste and climate change. Waste contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, particularly in the form of methane. In fact, waste is the third highest contributor to carbon emissions on the Cape. Methane is actually a much stronger greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. In some reports, 80 times more potent as a heat trapper. While shorter lived compared to carbon dioxide, say 12 years instead of hundreds of years, methane is the low-hanging fruit of greenhouse gases. Therefore, reduction of methane provides a window of opportunity to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions as we work on carbon dioxide mitigation. Improved agricultural practices, such as regenerative farming, fixing gas leaks, and better management of landfills, including waste reduction and landfill gas capture, can all bring positive benefits to our overall health and warming planet. Hello and welcome to Climate Matters. I'm your host, Lyn Schad, and I'm here today with Alan Robinson. Alan is our chair of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee here in Falmouth. And Alan, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thanks for this opportunity. This is great.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself, what brought you to Falmouth?
Well, we came to Falmouth about 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what brought me to Falmouth is about 10 years ago when my job sort of evaporated at lunchtime one day. When I came back from lunch and I discovered that we had reorganized and I was out of the organization. And I came home and my wife, Lyn, instead of kind of being concerned and upset, said, she was smiling. She said, you know, maybe we could get by on what we've got and move to Falmouth. And you could retire and we could move to Falmouth. Uh-huh. And I said, what? But 2 years later we did. And it took me a while to get my head around that idea. But boy, I'm sure glad because it's really worked out very, very well.
Now, you were in environmental sciences in your previous work.
I was an environmental consultant.
And
I worked.
What did you consult on? What types of things did you consult on?
I started out working in stormwater and floodplain management, and including the Susquehanna, modeling the Susquehanna River for flooding, which was a phenomenal thing, a great way to get started. Then I kind of moved into industrial site contamination, groundwater and related activities. Also a lot of surface water resources work. I worked at a number of Superfund sites, largely for industry. Mm-hmm. Working for industries like Roman Haas Chemical Company and Ford Motor Company and others. For the most part, companies that recognize their past sins. Mm-hmm. And we're working to make things right. And
so was your company phasing out because those all seem like very pertinent?
Oh no, it was this is a business. All these consulting firms are a business, and it was a little bit of a downturn period. And for all those reasons, for the equations, they said, well, Alan's is a high-paid person. Mm. We can maybe get by with one less person, and I happen to be that person. But it turned out great. And actually, my clients, a couple of my clients said, Alan's got to stay on their projects. Uh-huh. So it was really nice.
Yeah,
it was a really nice landing.
Transition.
Yeah, so I consulted on my own and got some work with the Philadelphia Water Department, which actually helped establish me into the efforts I've been involved in with plastics reduction, mm-hmm. and litter and waters and the like.
Wow, so you seem really well suited, especially for your role as the chair of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. It sounds like these are all the reasons that got you involved in waste management for the town of Falmouth. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah. It was really just in general, as a having had a career and having had a really really exciting career, and liking a great deal of all those activities, I learned a lot. I learned a little bit more about leadership and leading. getting other people involved, and I found that I really like to lead things as it happens, and to initiate things, and try to come up with, look to see, where can I contribute? Because I came to Falmouth, and there's all these things going on with water resources and all that.
Yeah.
But where could I contribute?
Really well suited for where we are.
And so what I could do was two things. One is I got involved with reducing single-use water bottle use at rowing regattas in Philadelphia. I'm a rower, and there are two very large regattas. The head of the Schuylkill Regatta, over 8,000 rowers, high school kids, college, adults of various ages.
And abilities.
And abilities, and parents and coaches and people coming, through in the park and all that. And there's just a tremendous amount of litter and a tremendous amount of single-use plastic water bottle use, and so much of that became the litter. And I was a member of the head of the Schuylkill Regatta organizing committee, and then I got asked to be on the board. And they asked me, what can I bring to the regatta to make the regatta better? And I said to eliminate single-use water bottles and to eliminate litter.
And did that get well received? Because in our community, when we brought up the ban for the plastic bags, when we brought up the ban for the single-use water bottles, there was a lot of pushback from businesses and from people. So what was that experience like with that organization, the rowing organization?
Well, we actually started with the boathouses, and we created the Schuylkill Navy. The Schuylkill Navy of Philadelphia is the governing body for rowing in Philadelphia, and I was a member of a committee, and we created a Schuylkill Navy River Stewards Committee. And the first thing we did was address the litter that was along the banks of the river from the things that floated down the river that got caught up on the banks, and we saw that we could make a difference there. We estimated we collected 4,600 plastic water bottles.
Wow.
In one 3-hour event with about 25 volunteers.
And how did you collect them? Like you were?
Oh, by hand. Before I discovered litter grabbers, by us
so just walking along the banks of the river.
Scrambling along just a half a mile of the bank. But it was as a river, it was a deposition area. Sediment gets deposited there that needs to be dredged, but so does the floating litter. And so we did that, and then we went to the boathouses, the rowing clubs, because there's 14 rowing clubs right along the river, plus the colleges. And we asked them to ask their members not to bring single-use plastic water bottles down to the docks or into the boats, because you set it on the dock, inevitably some of them are going to fall into the river. Right. And so that's where we started. And there was some pushback.
Was there?
But not much. And there's some recalcitrant types, so we kept working on them. But it caught. But then at the regatta, we decided to make this a real priority for the head of the Schuylkill Regatta. And we messaged to the committee, and we partnered with the Philadelphia Water Department. And
they must have really liked that, right?
What they very much did, because they want people to drink Philadelphia water, not water from Maine or Fiji or or wherever, right? And so they partnered with us. And this is 2015. They partnered by providing us with 12,000 refillable water bottles.
That was very nice of them.
And personnel from their staff on the Saturday and Sunday of the regatta to help us distribute them. And we had giant water monsters, 125-gallon cylinders filled with water, 10 of these from a local company. And it was an absolute hit.
Did you get any comments from the people that came, like not just the participants in the regatta, but like the people that came to watch?
Oh yeah, everybody loved it.
Yeah,
because we message to leave your single-use water bottles home, and we made a difference. 3 years in, we actually did a survey on Sunday where you've got the banks of the river are lined with high school, tailgating, chuck wagons, because the parents bring food and cook stoves and everything else. And we did a survey, and we found that 75% of the probably close to 100 high schools had no individual size single-use water bottles. They had gallons, or they had 5 gallons. They did not have single-use plastic water bottles.
Do we have any statistics on that for our schools here in Falmouth?
Well, the beauty of our schools, and this is even before I moved here, all of our schools have water bottle refill stations as their water fountains. And there's, at the time I moved here, something like 33. I don't know what the number is now. And you don't see, I've been in the schools some for the composting efforts, and you don't see single-use water bottles in our schools.
So are we thinking that that is a reflection of the younger generation just growing up on this greater awareness for reducing the use of plastics? Because when we first introduced the whole plastic reductions initiative, if you will, there was a lot of pushback from businesses that it's just not going to work for them financially. It's not going to work for them. And then even just from a practical point, you know, people sort of got in the habit, if you will, of having my plastic water bottle in my car, but it's a bought plastic water bottle. It's not one like this, right? So do you think it's a generational thing?
Well, I like to think it's our generation has made a difference, because you have to have the infrastructure.
Yeah.
At the regatta, you can't ask people not to bring single-use water bottles if you don't have water.
An alternative.
You don't
right.
have an alternative. And back in 2015, when not everybody, you know, I think almost everyone has a reusable water bottle today. But back in 2015, that wasn't the case. So with the Philadelphia Water Department joining in with providing those water bottles, it helped communicate to the rowing community. And just have the infrastructure, having the water stations at the schools that you can fill a bottle. Having, you know, now we have 19 outdoor water bottle refill stations and bubblers around Falmouth.
We have them at the beaches.
We have them at the beaches. We have them on the bike path. We have them on Main Street. We have them at the softball field at the high school. Having that infrastructure and having the water distribution system so that we can have those water stations is really important. And Falmouth has a marvelous water distribution system, and despite what some people think, we have marvelous water. We have very well treated water going into the distribution pipes and into our homes.
Some people think that there's a different taste to the water.
Well, chlorine, all water provided by a water authority or a town must be
chlorinated.
It must be chlorinated or otherwise treated for
Okay, so that's probably
reasons.
the differential between those that come in the plastic bottles that are from Fiji or something like that, and town water.
Yeah, a lot of those plastic bottles, it's like distilled water. It's like there's like nothing of value in it. We have real water. I mean, the water comes, it's groundwater that gets into a long pond that's pumped out of a long pond. The watershed is well protected. The groundwater shed is well protected in Falmouth. And we have very good water. Now you get algae, you get some algae in the summertime and all that, and that can impart some taste, but that's what the treatment plant is for, to remove that algae, and it does an outstanding job.
So Falmouth has done a lot to address climate change because of our proximity to the ocean, right? We are a green community. We have a sustainability specialist and a coastal resilience specialist. We just passed the plastic bylaw regulation.
And we have a recycling and solid waste coordinator in the Department of Public Works.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So we're in a really good place. Tell us about some other things that Falmouth has done that people might not be aware of, we should be proud of.
Okay, well, we've got a number of unnecessary plastics that in essence are banned. But they're not banned by some fiat. They're banned because a petitioner is going to town meeting, and town meeting voting to approve the petitioner's article. It started with plastic bags. When I moved to Falmouth, I was looking around in Philadelphia. If I wanted to pick up I saw some litter, I could always find a plastic bag. I found a Wawa bag, and I could fill it with litter. In Falmouth, you have to bring your own bags because there's no plastic bags hanging from the bushes and the trees because retail plastic bags were banned by a petitioner's article to town meeting. I was impressed with that when I got here. Then Malcolm Donald, who I know you know, was a petitioner for banning styrofoam and takeoutware. expanded styrofoam and pickleware. And I got involved with him and actually made the presentation at town meeting where town meeting agreed to ban that. And then there was NIPS, NIPS, I just was shocked about seeing these NIPS. And I was we created a group called Falmouth Litter Reduction Team, and we surveyed around Falmouth.
Does that still exist?
Now we extincted that, or we ended that, and created a group called Litter Free Falmouth.
Okay, yeah, very familiar with them.
And that goes on. But we did surveys and we did counts, and we found that 36% of the litter items on our roadsides were NIPS.
Yeah.
And so with that information, and with making presentations to the select board, and with having a public forum, and with having meetings, listening sessions with village association representatives, and with liquor store owners and operators. Your friend, our friend, Barbara Schneider, led those listening sessions and did a great job. We went to town meeting with all this information, and town meeting passed it. We were the second municipality in the Commonwealth to ban the sale of NIPS. People they can buy half pints, they can buy pints, they can buy all the liquors that are sold. You just can't buy them in NIPS, because NIPS get littered, and no one's going to redeem them if they were redeemable. They just throw them out the window. They want to hide the evidence.
Do we know where we are now with regards to the volume of NIPS?
Well, I've done some surveys, and it's less than 5% of the litter items.
Wow.
And you talk to people. Sometimes you have to hunt for NIPS, because they're just not.
Yeah, you don't see them as much as we did
like they used to be,
Yeah, that's a real.
And
neither are water bottles on the beaches,
And and so that's at the same town meeting. A young woman who was the petitioner, Christine, I can't think of Christine's last name, was one of my heroes, definitely one of my Falmouth heroes. She was, it was really challenging for her to do this, and she got a lot of resistance, but town meeting supported her. And that too has made a difference.
Yeah.
That just is an indication what one individual can do to start building and creating change. But of course you need more people to support it, and you need a town meeting to approve it. But there's only a few towns, I think, on the Cape that have taken that step. No one's taken all the steps that we've done. And then, of course, we created a plastic reduction committee after a petitioner wanted to ban all takeout plastic in food establishments, and it just wasn't a rational, possible thing to do.
I think you were the one that introduced the amendment to that original petition, right?
Right, because I was really concerned about town meeting. I was concerned, one, if town meeting passed this very poorly defined. It was a really good idea.
Yeah.
But it was ill-conceived. But I didn't want that to be passed that way.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want it be fail and then send a message that Falmouth didn't support reducing plastic and takeout.
Right.
So the Solid Waste Advisory Committee had a public forum where we invited restaurateurs and the public and so forth, and food establishments, and listen to them and get their input. And we sat down and we said, what we need is an amended version of that establishes a committee, and you can talk about the committee, because I don't know that many people are aware that this is going on, because it hasn't gone into action.
It's going to start in September.
It starts in September.
But
talk about how that
regulations
happened.
have been introduced.
Yeah.
So much like you said, it started out as a particular article at town meeting, and it was supposed to be very sort of black and white. So we were formed together. The select board decided that they wanted to have a committee of 7. We needed to have somebody from the Solid Waste Advisory Group there. We needed to have somebody from the Board of Health. We definitely needed to have business owners, because this regulation was going to affect them the most, right? And it only seemed fair that all the parties that were going to be affected by this should have a voice in how the regulations were to come about. So, and then we also had the original petitioner, Phil Gesson, was with us as well. So it was a great collaboration of coming together with this idea that seemed like so far possible of achieving, like we were at odds as to how, not those of us in the committee, because all of us in the committee entered into it with this desire to express where we were coming from, listening to where the other person was coming from, and then to come to some sort of reasonable, usable facsimile of what we're trying to do, which is essentially reduce plastics in our environment, and we had people in the committee that were like, this ain't going to happen at all. To they started to adopt some of the practices that we brought into the regulations, and they found that, one, they could do it. Two, while it was a change of behavior, maybe a little bit of a change in a business model, where there might have been, say, an additional cost in one area, they found that there were reductions in cost in other areas. So they were able to then look at it more holistically than just, oh, we have to get rid of plastics, or what we're going to replace plastics with is going to cost so much more money. So it was really, really good. Even the petitioner who started with all plastics are banned and it should be these really, very high fines, really came to recognize that it was a much more nuanced approach that could achieve similar results.
And the petitioner, Phil Gesson, who's like a 21-year-old or so, when he put this petition together, it was such a transformation, because I had talked to him beforehand and try to talk to him and get him to think differently. He worked so well together with you all, and he learned so much. And he is so impressive. I mean, he's a hero, because he had the nerve to do this, to do the petition. Right. And then the business members, Steve Vanderson from the Bean and Cod, and
Mike
Lewis.
Yeah,
they're
Seafood Sam.
I mean, they're like born. Not that they're born again, but they're like Michael's really transformed his business.
Yeah.
And they too are my Falmouth local heroes. It's really, you really can change things.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that came out of it, and I hope is a reflection of maybe future efforts, is that while maybe on the surface or initially these changes seem to be punitive, they actually can really be quite positive. They can be positive, like even for business establishments, in a way, lift up the fact that you're a business establishment that is reducing the use of plastics. Because
I go to your restaurant.
The committee, not the committee, but the community is going to, they're going to really embrace that. There's going to be some that aren't, but I think a good number of people are going to embrace that, and they would, they'll want to go to your place because they realize that you not only put out a really good product, but you're also environmentally conscious, and we're an environmentally conscious area here. We need to be, and we are.
Members of your committee, members of the Plastic Reduction Advisory Committee have made presentations at Cape-wide programs where the representatives from all the towns are there. And after the presentation, all these people are coming up to the speaker, us from Falmouth. And how can we be like you? Can we get the model of your ordinance? We did it the other way with this blanket thing, and nothing's happening. It's not working. Yeah. I mean, Falmouth is leading. I mean, Falmouth is people in Falmouth are helping to create change that goes beyond Falmouth. I talked about the regatta. I talked about reducing the use of plastic water bottles. But I realized that our real goal wasn't even reducing plastic water bottles, was to eliminate litter, so nothing would get into the river, because it was the river that we started out with working, the Schuylkill River, designing to protect, because it is absolutely so beautiful, such a beautiful venue to row within Fairmount Park in Philadelphia. You got these historic mansions from the 1800s, and these beautiful trees and all of that. We've gotten to the point in that regatta where it is a zero litter regatta. So you talk about getting people to use single-use water bottles. It's not
So it
littering.
Still continues.
It continues. I'm still on the board of the head of the Schuylkill Regatta, and I'm still the sustainability.
Do you still get to go down there to row?
I row in the regatta. I race in the regatta.
All right.
It's great. But through those efforts, we actually, in 2018, the World Rowing Federation, which is the world governing body for rowing for the Olympics and World Championships, and all the national bodies, the U.S. rowing and the Czech rowing and all that are part of our members of that. they established in 2018 a sustainability award. And through my the efforts that I led and all the people that we worked together, we were nominated by the United States for that award. And I actually won the World Rowing Federation's first ever sustainability award, which is very cool. And it was really a sustainable trophy. The trophy was only about this high. And it was wood.
It was what I was going to say. It's not made out of plastic or any petroleum-based product.
It looked like it was shaped like a water drop.
Yeah.
So it was very cool.
Yeah. So let's get back to the subject of methane and waste. And tell us a little bit about how our waste here in Falmouth is sort of processed, if you will.
Sure.
I know that's kind of a, squeezy question, but how is it?
Well, it starts with curbside collection. And we have universal curbside collection for single-family homes, and the town does not, the town does not have collection for like large condominiums and apartment buildings. That has
residential.
To be private.
It's all
but everything else
collection.
is residential in non-large building houses. And we have a contractor, Nauset Disposal, and they've been the contractor for about 3 years now. And they collect it. They haul the trash to the Bourne Integrated Waste Management Facility, also known as the Bourne Landfill. But landfilling is only a part of all that they do there. In any case, our trash gets deposited within the landfill. The landfill, as I think I said very early on, is a very well engineered landfill. It's got a double liner on the bottom. It does not leak. It does not impact groundwater. It will not impact groundwater in the future. The waste is covered up, and the waste from our town and from Bourne go there. The rest of the materials that go there are residual from off-site from the trash to energy facility called CMAS in Rochester, where the waste from many other towns in the Commonwealth goes to. Where it's burned, heat is generated. It turns a turbine, and the turbine creates electricity. So a lot of the trash in Massachusetts actually becomes electricity. The residual comes there. It gets covered up. Our trash gets covered up. And then it's going to be there for, the plastics, the food, the biogenic material, the organic material, the food scraps, and the food waste.
That's not separated out, though, right?
No, it's all mixed together with all the plastic and the wood.
But I thought plastic would be recycled.
Well, some plastics are recycled.
Not 100%.
But when you get a plastic bag of some fast food, that plastic bag of that fast food is probably not a good example. Some frozen food. Most of those frozen food bags aren't recyclable. Well, first they had to be recycled not in curbside. They'd have to go to to one of the supermarkets for recycling, and that's a very good thing to do with the appropriate bags going there. But so much when I look at my trash, and there's no organic material going into my trash. All of it is being composted.
So that would be a good way to divide up one's trash, right?
Let's come back to the composting part. But anyway, our trash goes in the landfill. It gets covered up, and of course, as it's in there, it is decomposing. The organic material is decomposing.
And producing methane.
And it produces methane and carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide and so forth. But the landfill is a well-designed, engineered, meeting all federal and state requirements for design and operation. It's a model landfill in many ways. And there's a vacuum extraction system that captures the gases that are emitted from the decomposition. And they get into a header where there's a flare, a burner, and it burns those gases.
Is that a contained header, or is there anything that is emitted into the air?
There's a flame. There's a flame, and that eliminates 95% of the methane that is generated from the decomposition of the organic trash.
Do you know, so it sounds like we have a very good system here. Do you know what the status is sort of across the country in terms of other landfills being this?
Landfills have gotten a bad name.
Okay.
And there's lots of sins of the past where they're uncontrolled. They didn't have liners, they didn't have covers, they weren't well compacted. I can't say it's universally changed, but it's nearly universally changed in the United States.
That's good to hear.
Because they're regulated either by the EPA, in most states they're regulated by the state. Design, there's very specific design specifications. They're very specific construction and operation specifications. And the gas, in some places, the very large landfills that are near the right infrastructure, the gas is captured, the methane isn't burned. It goes into the gas distribution system and can be used in somewhere along the line for households and just household type commercial gas, natural gas. There's so little generated, relatively speaking. There's so little generated at the Bourne landfill. It's just not.
Do we have to worry about reaching our capacity? With the population on the Cape increasing, especially in the summertime, those numbers continue to go up and up.
Well,
and
in
up.
the short run for Falmouth, we're in really good shape.
Okay.
Because the Bourne landfill is being expanded. Right now they're constructing a large expansion. And so that should cover Falmouth for the next, once that's completed in a couple years, I guess, at least another 20 or 25 years. So that's a good thing.
The expansion is going to be 25?
Expansion,
when will that be completed, the expansion?
Oh, the expansion will be done within a year or two.
Oh, okay. But cover us for the next 20, 25 years.
And then it'll operate for 20, 25 years. However, if we can reduce the amount of trash that's going there, it'll go longer. Now, most of the communities in actually all the communities except our Bourne and Falmouth are going off-site. Their trash is either going to this CMAS in Rochester, or it's going out of state. And so one of those out of states is Alabama. There's trash from Cape Cod and going to Alabama, and the projection is much more of it is going to go to Alabama, not just from.
And I would imagine not on electric trucks, so they have.
Well,
to
they're going on trains. Well, they're going on trains,
they're going on
which is a good,
That's
thing.
That's good.
But it's a long way, and it's like it's like passing the buck.
Passing the buck. Because they have their own trash in Alabama.
Well, they have a lot less because they have fewer
people, I suppose.
Okay. And they do have the space, and they do have lots of clay, and they have there's some reasons why it's there, and they got railroad lines that go there. But it's like we're exporting this. We're not taking care of it ourselves. I mean, my way of thinking, we really should be taking care of it ourselves, and that is either creating more landfill or trash to energy capacity within Massachusetts. And right now there's a stoppage of any new facilities.
And why is that?
Well, I think because the legislators decided that's what they wanted to do because their impression of what the public wanted them to do. But
meaning we don't want landfills in our backyard type of thing?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
It seems like a couple of things we can do to extend the life of the ones that we have is reduce the amount of trash that we create and make sure that the organic portion, which is our food scraps, and that's, I think, a different conversation or a different question on how we can reduce that, but that becomes composted.
But that's exactly where we, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and I think ultimately the Department of Public Works and the town wants to move to. I mean, I can't speak for the town. I can certainly speak for our committee that we're interested in doing this, and that we were working, small steps, and we really probably need to start taking bigger steps. But at least small steps by we've initiated now 3 drop-off locations for food scraps. Where people can take food scraps or their food waste, residents can do this.
And the schools are starting to compost their food as well, right?
Right. Well, the schools have taken a tremendous step.
Good for them.
Every school, K through 12, the kindergarten kids and 12th graders are separating their uneaten and uneaten food scraps. And when you went to those elementary school, could you say, how, as a parent or a grandparent, say, how can you throw all this stuff away? But in any case, it is all being collected, and they're doing a really good job at it. And then it's being, both the schools and Department of Public Works have a contract with a firm called Black Earth up on the North Shore, and they are collecting our food scraps, and they are taking it to one of their composting facilities, and they're creating soil out of it, or a soil amendment out of it. And so that completes the circle, and it can produce more food, or grass, or whatever it is that you want to grow. So we are taking steps.
So fertilizer.
Well, it's
natural fertilizer.
And it holds moisture and all of that. So we are taking steps, and that will and then also over the last year and a half, the county, with Falmouth really in the forefront of partnering with Barnstable County, is working on an initiative or a project to develop a food composting facility at Joint Base Cape Cod. And we're hoping that will come to be within a couple years. And then we'll have a local, we'll quote industrial scale. It won't be very big. It'll be a few acres, but we'll quote industrial type composting, which can process all sorts of organic material, fruits and vegetables, but also meats and bones and fats and all of that, and produce a soil amendment.
Don't the Nantucket, I think for sure, I'm not sure whether Martha's Vineyard, they have a composting facility there, right? Is that not something that Falmouth could utilize?
I think what Nantucket has is an anaerobic digester.
Okay.
Which doesn't produce it actually it's a different process, and what it produces is not a soil amendment in itself. Normally it's an organic material, but then it's blended with something like sewage sludge to make a soil amendment. Now, sewage sludge is becoming a big issue recently because of contaminants within that. But I don't want not going there. Composting is, and actually, in Nantucket is sort of out of capacity. They're not able to process all of that they want to process. So having land, having a controlled environment to process food scraps and turn it basically into a soil amendment is the way to go. And so we're hoping that and then the travel the travel cost, the collection costs to have it processed is so much less expensive here than taking it to Framingham or other places where Black Earth or other companies have it. They're an hour and a half away. So county and Falmouth and Bourne are leading the effort in partnership with the county. Mary Wright.
And that would be that compost facility, if it were to be at the Joint Base. Would that just be for Upper Cape, or would that be Cape-wide?
That hasn't been settled yet. It'll likely be a partnership of the 4 Upper Cape towns, and possibly maybe Barnstable, with the county, with having gotten the rights to use the parcel from the military, both the state and the federal militaries, because it's joint. It's a joint base.
Right, there you go. That's the name.
And chances are they'll contract with a private operator to design, build, and operate it. So it'll be a public-private partnership.
They can be good partnerships.
Yes, they absolutely can be. And that's what we're hoping that this goes, and that process is going on. But
not to put you on the spot, but do we have any kind of timeline? We're looking in the next 3 years?
We're hoping in a couple years. I'm hoping that we're going to learn more within a couple of weeks of sort of the timeline.
I don't know whether it's just me, because I've started composting in my backyard, but it does. I'm more aware of it happening now for people. You know what I mean? You wouldn't necessarily see it in somebody's household, but there's many households that you go into now. There even are some restaurants that you can go into
Yeah.
that are doing composting, you know, so it's definitely becoming more, you know, it's that gradual, insidious, you can make change. It may not happen real fast, but you can make change.
Our focus needs to even more be on how we can kind of speed it up to get people more aware. One of the challenges in Falmouth, and I know you're a member of the beach committee, and I know you have this challenge too, is how do you get your message out to the entire community? How do you get the message out about no cigarette butts or no smoking on the beach? You can have a sign there, but how about the people who haven't been to the beach yet or whatever? Or all the issues about food at the beaches and all that's very topical and is covered really well by by the enterprise.
Right.
But
I think it works better for the people who are, you know, residents of the town. There's that consistency of information that's gotten, and then we have that period of time here, our summer months, right, where we bring a lot of new people.
But it's even us folks who live in the town, because, you know, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, partnering with DPW, have done some collection events. We have done 3 styrofoam collection events in the last, I don't know, 7 months or so. And in the most recent 2, including one just 2 Saturdays ago, we've surveyed people how they heard about our event. And we had 204 people come this 2 Saturdays ago with styrofoam. I don't have the total tonnage yet, but last time we did this, we collected 2,100 pounds of styrofoam. Now, styrofoam is nothing, it weighs nothing, right?
Yeah, right, so that's
we have
a lot.
2,100 pounds of nothing came. So we probably had something close to that this time too. But in any case, we asked people how they heard about it. This time, 66% of the people said they heard about it via having read the enterprise, which is great. It shows how valuable the enterprise is. But we know that only roughly 7,000 households subscribe to the enterprise. And there's
out of a population of 30-some thousand, right?
A population of 30-some thousand that balloons to a lot more
in the summertime. Yeah.
And so we know a lot of people aren't reading the enterprise. Now, there's information.
Was there another? Did they say like the other 33%? Where did they hear from?
Some of them got it on Facebook because Mary Reither puts things on Facebook, and the swap shop, which is another amazing thing we have to reduce trash, which we could talk about too if there's time. They message about it. Right? The various village associations we email to, and they get the message out on their Facebooks or their communication systems. And then there's the wife telling the husband and whatever, and and posters. I mean, some people saw we put posters out, and some people saw those, and some people heard it on heard it on other means. But so it's building more people to hear it those ways. It's learning how do people hear about things, and then what can we do to get the message out. And this obviously this applies to so many things, and so many important other important issues, even more important issues like housing and water quality, and reducing the use of fertilizers that are nutrifying our water bodies, and all that. There are people who just aren't aware. I mean, despite the fact they live here,
but
plus the others.
I'd like to feel encouraged that there's more awareness, because there's really good groups in Falmouth. Your committee is one of them. I'd like to thank the Beach Committee and the group that put together the plastics reduction. Not to pat ourselves on the back or anything like that, but that we are trying to get the message out there to be able to make changes in a positive way. I think Falmouth is on a really good trajectory as far as that's concerned, but there's a lot of issues that are, we continue to be faced with. And for anybody who has something that they want to bring forward, we're the community to do it in, right?
There's no better community I can think of to work to create change, positive change than Falmouth. I mean, this town meeting thing, which I was unfamiliar with, other than a Norman Rockwell, Life magazine cover or whatever of a town meeting in the 1940s is so powerful that an individual or a group of people can bring something, and they can get empowered. They can go to select board meetings and they can speak in public comment.
We can talk to our select board members.
You can go to the beach committee meeting. You can go to the solid waste. Come to the College Solid Waste Advisory Committee, which meets the second Tuesday of the month at 7 o'clock at Town Hall. And
Do you have all of your committee members now?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Okay, you're a fully staffed committee?
We actually had to go. We were a 7-member committee. We had to go to 9 because we had two folks who kept coming to our meetings and had all these great ideas, and everybody sits at the table together. No one's a second-class member of the meeting.
Of course not.
And so we asked permission to become a 9-person committee, and we became a 9-person.
But there was a
committee.
time when you
were struggling. Yeah, we had a number of
people
people left. I mean, timed out.
Oh, that's good.
It's an amazing committee, and we've got other people who come to the meetings because they really care and are really interested, and can contribute and join in on our volunteer
and
events.
I think because they see that you're affecting change, and that they can affect change as well.
Yeah. I mean, if another change is 4-lane Route 28 in western North Falmouth. When I moved here, I picked up litter in Philadelphia, and I figured, well, I'm going to move to Cape Cod. I'll have to get involved in something else because litter's not going to be a big issue on Cape Cod. I found out that not to be the case. But the 4-lane Route 28 was a disaster. It was horrible. I mean, all in the median, the low areas in the median were just full of big pieces of white styrofoam and tires and cardboard. It was just horrible. And some of us in this group, Litter Free Falmouth, that started in the heart of the pandemic in 2020, and came together and said, let's do one of these adopt a highway things. You always see signs adopted by or whatever. We said, well, let's do it. And so we did it, and we've been doing it now this is our 5th year. And we worked on MassDOT, which was overmatched and understaffed. And maybe didn't have the light, the light on the fire to the degree that they needed to be, and we actually partnered them. And
maybe because they didn't think people cared.
Yeah,
When you find out somebody cares about something,
and it's tough because they keep picking up and it keeps coming back. I mean, it's
that's true.
But we convinced them to allow us to partner with them on a median cleanup. And so it was like May 2021, and we had 32 people working, 33 volunteers working together with MassDOT, working in shifts over 2 days, with the whole MassDOT, those yellow trucks and the bumpers thing, and all the state police and all that to protect us. And we filled 196 of those yellow bags that hopefully people see along the road. 196 bags of just the median going north. 196 bags over the roughly 6 miles, and hadn't been cleaned up in years. The roadsides, the edges, but not that.
But is it different now?
And now we're out there every few weeks. Plus, MassDOT is doing a much better job. They've allocated more resources to it. I like to think that the letters, the emails we wrote, and the telephone calls we made actually made a difference. But it certainly, they're our partners, and we really appreciate their efforts, and that they're doing a greater effort is just fantastic. And they really do care. I mean, there's no question that they care. They just felt that it was
like in many instances,
the Sisyphus, and but again, you can create change. We can change something much bigger than us. I mean, one person picking up litter is a great thing. Pick up 3 pieces. Everybody picked up 3 pieces of litter a day. We'd be
or better yet, don't create the litter. That's
even better yet. And that's what our goal is, and that's with all these bans on NIPS and other things. But when you get people together and you get a group of people doing things, well, one, you're getting more litter. I mean, you've now helped get more litter. You're creating some community of people working together. That's a fun thing. It's like a team thing.
Right.
And then you can actually get MassDOT to change, or to apply more, not change, but to apply more resources, and get them to actually support your efforts. I mean, they were great by supporting it, giving us the yellow bags, and picking things up. But you know, they're believers in what we're doing. And we'd like to think that it helps when people see cleaner highways, they're less likely to litter.
Right. So let's put the package,
Yeah.
the whole package
Yeah.
together. So if we can be part of the solution, right? And in the form of, since our conversation here has to do with waste and how we can reduce it, how we can pick it up, how we can process it, and management. But if we can all be part of the solution, whether we think it's just a little effort that we do ourselves, which can blossom into a bigger effort as far as community involvement, committee involvement, and then that can sometimes go to the next level, state involvement. We can actually affect really good change.
We can.
And I think Falmouth has positioned herself, thanks to someone like you and the people on your committee, to be able to continue with that change. So I'd like to thank you so much for being with us here today, for all that you've contributed to the town, and let's keep doing it, and let's ask those of you out there to join us, whatever your passion happens to be, whatever your concern happens to be. There's probably a committee for it. If there's not, we can always create it, and join us out there, won't you?
Yeah, and Lynn, thank you for all you're doing. The opportunity to be at this program, but this plastics and the beach committee and everything else. There really is an opportunity. We both talked, if I can just close with, we both watched something, a presentation that Arnold Schwarzenegger recently made. And he talked about the worldwide, national, all the agita and so forth, and the frustration that many people have, and how can we make things better when things are being reversed? Mm-hmm. And he said, let's bring it home and make the change at home. Right? Start here. Start now. Start with one. Start with a group. You can make a difference, and it can grow, and that's what we're trying to do. Yeah. So thanks.
Alan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Pleasure talking with you.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Good.